Good afternoon, everyone. Gabe Velazquez here with you, TransferTradingSolutions.com. On Friday, this is the fifth day of June. We're in the midst of a big sell-off. No surprise. I wrote about it over the weekend. Sentiment was really getting stressed. Obviously, these parabolic moves. And interestingly, what's triggering a lot of this, I mean, we were already kind of under pressure a little bit with these semis selling off yesterday, but really what kicked it into gear, the momentum, was the non-farm payrolls and rates jumping up. Let's get right into the charts and take a look at, of course, the biggest sell-off is happening in the NASDAQ because it's been the biggest gainer. We had this huge parabolic move over the last, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks now, right? After we broke out here. So the question becomes, obviously, is this the beginning of something bigger? We're only down about 3.5%, 4% off the high. So it still remains to be seen. Buy the dip did not step in here like it did yesterday. Remember, yesterday we were kind of looking like it was going to sell off, and then we had that Nvidia actually was what rescued the market. So I think now wouldn't surprise me if we at least come down into this 28,760 level down here. That was a big kind of daily demand here. It would not surprise me if we actually come and test that again. And then if not, then it looks like the next demand zone is going to be around 20, let's call it 28K. Obviously still remains to be seen. We'll see what happens. We got the SpaceX IPO next week, which will be interesting. But for now, I think, looks like likely we're going to hit that level down in here in the S&P at some point. I don't know if it's going to happen like today. We could accelerate into the close. We're about an hour away from the close. But at some point, maybe next week, if we get some kind of a bounce here. Similarly, on the S&P, obviously not getting hit as hard. Looks like 7,300 is in the cards here. We had a gap to fill, and that just blew right through that gap. I've been talking about that gap for a little while here. And so now it looks like, maybe 7,300 looks like that's in the cards. Importantly, also, we have some supply forming on any kind of rebound. We'll see. It's only the first day. Obviously, it's a pretty steep sell-off, but, they start somewhere. But I would still give the bulls the benefit of the doubt. I think next week is really going to be the true test of all of this. Russell is breaking down a little bit. Looks like Russell's going to test. Let's see, we're probably going to test this area down here at 70. There's a little demand zone here, 2,800 on the Russell. So all these are going to be in play coming up here. Bitcoin, as you know, everybody's talking about it. I've been watching this very carefully. I wrote about it in the last few newsletters. I think now sentiment is getting very, very extremely pessimistic on Bitcoin. So, it's tough to say on the charts. Maybe, 55K, maybe even the only thing you can see, this is the micro Bitcoin futures contract, is probably down to 52. I don't know. I think we're due for some kind of a bounce here. I think the sentiment is getting way, way overdone on this thing. Obviously, you have to wait for a reversal because there aren't any levels really to lean on at this point, other than all the way down to 43K. Could it get there? Of course, we never know. Rates are the ones rates are actually jumping today. I think that's what's happening in the short term. Everybody's talking about the rate hikes are off the table. Rate cuts are off the table. We'll see if this is again a one-day phenomenon or it leads into something bigger. The dollar is the one that's screaming today, but even that still hasn't broken out yet. So this is pressuring gold, silver, all the metals across the board. it'll be interesting next week. I wrote about gold over the weekend. I said, again, this is really if the dollar breaks out, gold is going a lot lower. But if the dollar can hold here and retrace, I think gold is due for a bounce as well. So this is also a key market to watch. Oil, one thing also to note today is since the war began, anytime uh, oil fell, stock market rallied. That is not the case today, which could be, again, a change in dynamic here. So we'll see. Obviously, the war is still ongoing. There's still negotiations, and so on and so forth. A gap to fill at 84. That gap in the specific contract that I mentioned in Tuesday's session is in fact holding right here. So I did mention that if you watch the video from Tuesday around the 696 level. So that's come down. And now we got the gap to fill at 88. We'll see what happens over the weekend. And more or less that, again, huge selling in the semiconductors, giving back a lot of it. What's most notable is NVIDIA. I think if NVIDIA breaks 200. It looks like Nvidia is going back down to 200. And remember, yesterday we had a rally in Nvidia here, and that I think that's what helped the indexes not fall. But today that's not the case here, so that's going to be worth watching. Some of these other stocks are just getting hammered today. Uh, Palantir rallied back up to 163 and all the way back down. We got out of service now. I remember last week, so we had a good trade. That's come all the way back as well. So a lot of these stocks, we're currently short Qualcomm. We put on some puts when the stock was at. Uh, Actually, let me show everybody here. We put the puts on 2 days ago when the stock was at 245. So we're doing quite well with that. We'll see if it holds here. It's sitting up right at demand, and we'll see how that goes. In any event, have a great weekend. Again, subscribe to the newsletter. I'll be writing about some stuff this weekend. Give me a thumbs up, and I have another class coming up. Look out for that. Have a great weekend.